Hello, and welcome to the HQ Movie Review Podcast.
Wait. We're recording, right?
Yes.
And everything's plugged in?
Yes.
Yeah, full battery.
We're on power. We're on all power.
Good.
Okay, we're not losing this one like we lost the first Kingsman.
So far, no.
Okay.
All right.
I'm Josh,
I'm Rachel.
I'm Jack.
And I'm Brandon.
and we just watched The Kingsman 2.
The Golden Circle.
We did record a podcast episode after The Kingsman 1. However, due to a slight oversight on
By someone who
on
may or may
my
not be
end.
named.
We're not going to name any names.
Josh definitely isn't gonna.
Yeah.
It was Josh, though.
Okay, all right. We might have lost that episode, so we're just gonna move on to Kingsman 2.
You know, the funny thing is, we could have just not said anything. Like, we watched Cars 3, and we just didn't record episodes for Cars 1 and 2.
Look, y'all were not gonna let that slide.
No, we weren't. But the funny thing is, we could have.
Okay, fair enough. So, I've never seen any of the Kingsman movies before we watched it on movie nights. So this has been an experience for me. An experience that I've loved every minute of.
Yeah, I have seen the first Kingsman a couple times before we watched it together. This is the first time I've seen The Golden Circle, though. So it was great.
This was also my first time seeing The Golden Circle, but I absolutely loved the first Kingsman movie, and I've watched it many times.
I had seen both of the Kingsman movies, and personally, I think the second one was much better than the first. But
I don't know if I'm far enough away to compare them, because I've only, like I said, I've only seen the second one once. But I mean, they were both good.
I think that we just have like a lot more fun in the second one. Like, I think there's a lot more messaging. Not to say that there isn't messaging in the second one, but the first one has a really heavy emphasis on kind of like the growth in the story. And this one just has like a lot of like really off the rails moments that are perfectly justified in the genre that we're watching.
Oh yeah, we've gotten the origin story out of the way. Now we can just do fun stuff.
Something that I saw like pretty early on in the movie that I really liked too, because it hasn't been a while since we watched the first one, but it's been long enough that it was really good to kind of watch the way that they worked like the recap into the first movie into this one, where you kind of get clips from the previous one, you get a couple of the characters that you see again at the beginning, and just small references to everything that went down in the original, so you can kind of remember where we left off.
Yeah, it was a very good sequel like setup. They showed us just enough. They didn't go through the entire first movie again. It's very nice.
Little clips here and there. I will say, as soon as I saw the scene with Harry that was new to this, and it, like, obviously was not like just clips from the last movie, I was like, I see they must be bringing him back.
I mean, he could have just been on a 2-movie contract, and they just needed him for backflash clips, you know?
I mean, it could have, but when does that happen?
Cameos exist.
Very rarely. So I was very much on the I think they're gonna bring him back from the dead.
They brought Mark Hamill in for one shot in the opening scene of the first one.
No, he was in another scene. Because remember, they like go and find him at the school or whatever, and they try and get some information out of him, and they have to detonate his chip early.
I'm not talking about like cameos from random actors. I'm talking about like, hey, this is a major actor from the previous movie, and now here's the sequel. If you see a new scene in that kind of scenario, chances are they're a bigger character in that movie than you think.
Fair enough. Speaking of return characters, Charlie from the first movie, someone who I was not expecting to come back.
Yeah.
And also now he's the Winter Soldier.
Yeah?
The more ridiculous Winter Soldier.
Yeah, he's also part Terminator, apparently.
Like, he's the Winter Soldier that would show up in a Deadpool movie.
That's actually a very, very good way of putting it.
I really want Deadpool to be in this franchise. That would just be amazing.
I don't know if we can handle it.
Other recurring character that I just kind of want to get this one out of the way pretty early. Why we gotta keep sidelining Roxy, this time by killing her. Spoiler alert, by the way.
Yeah.
Who's watching this and hasn't seen the movie? It's a recap.
I don't know, sometimes.
Fair enough.
Also, is she dead?
I feel like she would have come back
Probably.
at the end if she wasn't.
She's gone.
Based on what they did with Harry, I beg to differ. I think she's probably going to show back up in the third movie.
Are they making a third movie?
So they are making a third movie. It is a prequel movie, so she most definitely will not be back.
Now, unless we go into her backstory before she met the main character, which would be wild and also kind of unsatisfying.
From, if I remember correctly, it's supposed to be like an origin of the Kingsman service.
So she's definitely not going to be in it then.
So
Yeah, I think the title is like The King's Man.
yeah.
Oh, that's right. I remember now.
Oh, okay.
I do remember seeing like a teaser for that or something, like an announcement or something.
Yeah, but it really it's like my one complaint is that first she was more competent in the first one as a Kingsman. She was the recruit that actually made it and was chosen.
Yeah.
And then they gave her just the like, oh, we know you have the Sphere of Heights. Go up into space to shoot down the satellite with this like crazy weather balloon thing. And that was like her whole job on the mission. And then this one, they kind of fridged her.
Yeah, she's just Oracle for like his Nightwing, and then she blows up.
Yeah.
That's real unfortunate.
Like, the only thing that makes it seem like she might have gotten out is the fact that she had warning.
I mean, a lot of those guys had warning.
I don't think they did.
No, they all had missile detection things. You see it when Arthur, I think,
Yeah,
the head person.
The new Arthur. Like,
Yeah.
every one of them had missile detection. It's just, it detected the missile 2 seconds before it hit the building.
Yeah.
Yeah, also, like, if you look at the shot of outside of her house when that missile hit, like, where'd she go? Because,
Yeah.
like, even if she made it out the door, like, the surrounding ground just imploded around her.
Well, no, that was at the main headquarters. And that's because there was nothing underneath. That was all building.
But that's where she was.
Yeah, she was in the main headquarters. So when it exploded, she exploded with it, and then it fell into the cavern beneath it where, like, all of their other secret shit is.
For some reason, I thought she was at home.
I mean, it's reasonable, but
I thought she was at her own house doing that.
they didn't develop her enough to give her a house.
I don't know. I just thought that she, like, was going to make it out of there somehow, but just later.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah.
You know what? There's no proof she didn't. That can be our headcanon.
Because she was in the trailer. There was, like, a shot of her sitting at the table with the glasses. That was, like, one of 2 scenes that she was in. Like, you really
Yeah.
do get the impression she's going to be in the rest of this movie.
Yeah, Channing Tatum was also in the trailer.
We got more of Channing Tatum than we got of Roxy.
We absolutely did.
Still, less of both than I thought we would get.
Yeah.
That is real unfortunate. I thought she was a very good character. We were like best friends, and she's like helping him with his dinner date with the parents.
Yeah, she was his Oracle.
Yeah, it was great.
I did have a question since we're still in like the opening scenes. How Charlie's like neck implant chip getting shorted out blew his arm off? Did that bother anyone else?
No, that really bothered me too. Like, hold on. I like, if you're gonna electrocute something, either you're gonna disable it, or it's just not gonna do anything. It's not gonna change the location of where it explodes.
So I think the only logical explanation is just that it blew up from something else they're blowing up.
Nothing else is blowing up in that room except for people's neck implants.
Yeah, which those didn't do much damage outside of, their necks.
It's a silly nitpick, but it did bother me a little bit.
And it was such a clean explosion on the arm, too. And also the vocal cords?
Yeah, like that's his whole purpose of being in the movie is because he survived with his robot arm for this specific reason. I think I would have accepted it more if it just blew out his vocal cords, and then the main villain gave him a robot arm because she trusts robots more than people.
Yeah.
I also think we probably could have done more about the vocal cords story-wise, just by giving him like a cool robot voice, because it really just felt like we had put vocal cords in there for no reason.
Yeah, it really didn't factor in aside from giving him like a very slight like auto-tune filter. That's it.
Yeah, I think there was one scene in the bowling alley where it was a little bit more prevalent than every other time in the movie, because I was like, oh, is he actually giving him like a robot voice? And he said like 2 lines that whole scene, and then after that he just talked like a normal person again.
Yeah, I honestly forgot he had that for most of the movie until we see his neck again and he has the little implant. And otherwise, it's not a factor.
Does not make a difference at all. Like, I think the only thing maybe is, did he talk in the opening sequence when he's in the like they're fighting in the car? Did he talk then?
He talked right before that. Because he shows up and he says, it's ironic. You look like a gentleman and I look like a thug.
Oh,
and then he
right.
says the thing about stealing his taxi and then they start fighting.
Okay. Yeah, that kind of ruins my whole train of thought of maybe if he didn't talk then, it was because he didn't have his vocal cords yet, he didn't have the implant yet, and then later on they gave him the implant that allowed him to talk again. But no, it just before the movie even started, he had already had it.
Also, like, big thanks to the glasses just scanning his face, showing us what he looked like in the first film, and then telling us who he was. Because I was like, I don't know who this man is.
Those some real good movie making.
He looked nothing alike. Did not recognize him at all.
So one of the IMDb trivia facts is that this series is loosely, and I mean very loosely, based on a Marvel comic.
Yeah.
Which one?
I cannot find the name.
It's
Ironically.
so loose, it doesn't even have a name connection.
I'm pretty sure the name is like Kingsman, the Secret Service, or something along. I think it's just the Secret Service, is what it is.
Long story short, this is part of the MCU, guys.
Love that. Which multiverse is this one?
Well, if current Marvel projects or anything, it's also Universe 616.
They're all 616.
They're all Earth 616.
Oh boy.
Loki episode 1 is dropped last week. If you're curious about where we are in, the sacred timeline.
I really want to talk about, before we get too far in, Miss Poppy as a villain.
All right.
Uh-huh.
Because it was like the very first scene that we saw her in, the very first road I know, it was like, she's very compelling as a villain.
Oh yeah.
It's just like the delivery, the kind of like the like sugary sweet friendliness, the fact that even like her like high level hench people are like, ah yes, Miss Poppy. Like there's just something that was like really beautifully unsettling about just the back and forth there.
Yeah.
And I thought it was like really good, and it was a great choice, villain wise and character wise and acting wise. Not even beginning to get into like the plan and the whole motivations.
Yeah, no, definitely. It was really interesting seeing the zoom in of like, all right, we're in the jungle, here's this ancient like lost city that she has converted to like a 50s, like there's a diner and a salon and all this and like a bowling alley and stuff, and then we zoom in to her meeting with this guy that ends with robot dogs and a human burger.
Yeah, like everything about the character is just a subversion of expectations. Like,
Yeah.
oh, it's a drug cartel boss that has a monopoly on drugs on the entire
every
planet.
single drug.
Every single drug on the entire planet. And, you expect like a mob boss or something. And no, you get Miss Poppy.
They had like the sequence where you're like going through the news cycle, and the one guy is listing off all these like ruthless qualities about her, and is like, the ideal CEO. I was like, I love this. I love the way that they're framing this. Even like when he switches, she's like, or a psychopath. Like it's
Yeah.
She's a supervillain. Like you can call her that too, but I just like the fact that we are like looking at this in like a business sense of like, these are traits that we celebrate in, all of these like major mega billionaire CEOs. And I think it's probably one of my favorite parts of Kingsman 2. And I mean, the first one had like really cool and like colorful villain traits too, but I don't know, something about this one just really hooked me.
Yeah.
I mean, both villains had the same motive, essentially, in that Whiskey was also motivated by money.
Oh, yeah.
I thought we were talking about like Valentine.
I thought you were talking about Valentine. Like, his
no.
motivations are way different. I mean, Whiskey had two motivations. One of them was money, being that Statesman is an alcohol business, and if it's the only drug, then, hey, yeah, we're making more money. But also, like, hey, people who were on drugs killed his, like, I assume that was his wife. He said it was his high school sweetheart and love of his life and the mother of his unborn child. Did not mention marital status, but it's whatever, it's fine. They killed his, like, love, and they were both, like, on drugs, and he's like, alright, cool, I have a vendetta against people who use drugs, and also I can make money. And it's like, okay, that's believable for this guy to get to this conclusion from those points.
One of the things that I also love about Poppy is that they lean so heavily into how much she loves Elton John.
That's great.
Not only did she kidnap Elton John, she named both of her dogs Benny and Jet. And then every single movie that was showing in the marquee was part of Elton John songs.
I did not notice that.
They just lean so heavily into how much she loves Elton John. It's great.
Also, Elton John was in this movie way more than I thought he was going to be, which honestly was zero going in.
He was in this movie 20 times as much as Channing Tatum.
Yeah.
Elton John was instrumental to the success of the Kingsman's mission in like multiple places.
Yeah, and I think my favorite thing is that throughout the movie he gets more and more like badass. Like he's like taking down guards and fighting robots, and he's not like, oh, Elton John was secretly one of the Kingsmen the whole time, or oh, Elton John, like he had like he was knighted and that's a thing. It's like, no, that's just what Elton John's like.
Elton John, he'll beat you up with his own goddamn piano.
Kick you with his platform boots.
All of those flashy costumes, yeah, that's a Predator display. That's a warning to stay away or he will kick your ass.
Elton John, always down to throw hands.
Also, it was just hilarious the first time we see the robot dogs go after him, and it's Elton John detected. It's great.
Friendly.
It's real good. So who wants to talk about West Virginia?
That song, oh my god, it came up so many more times. It was the opening music.
Yep.
It was featured probably 3 or 4 times plot-wise.
Yeah. Merlin sings it.
Merlin sings it. Are we going to talk about that one? Because that's the sad one.
We don't have to talk about that
That's
one.
the sad time.
But it's like Top Gun and Danger Zone. It just keeps coming back.
They never even go to West Virginia. They just
It's
found a great song.
It's in Kentucky.
Yeah.
Like, they could have just made it West Virginia. Nothing about the Statesman necessarily required it be in Kentucky.
No, I feel like Kentucky fit better.
Yeah, they needed something a lot more southern than West Virginia.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fair, but like if they wanted to use that song as such a prevalent part of the movie, I feel like it would just be easier to make it in West Virginia versus Kentucky.
I stand by their baffling decision. Let me know when you find a good Kentucky song.
We're waiting.
Oh. It'll be a while.
Speaking of things that no one said, why didn't anyone know about their doomsday protocols?
Yo, for real.
Like, I get having, like, a select couple of people know, just because, like, maybe if there's, like, a leak or a problem, you don't want everyone knowing, like, what the
Right.
next step is.
Exactly.
But if Merlin didn't make it, or if Merlin didn't make it, we wouldn't have even had the movie.
Yeah.
And then someone at Statesman should have known.
Yeah. The fact that only one person at Kingsman knew, and he didn't even know what the actual Doomsday Protocol was, is absolutely wild to me. At the very least, the one on the Statesman side was very obviously like, oh hey, it's an umbrella with a giant, like, plaque on it that says, like, Kingsman. The one for the Kingsman was just, hey, here's a bottle of alcohol, and on the inside of the label is a very tiny Kingsman logo. Maybe you've buried the lead too far.
I mean, in fairness, the front of it just says Statesman.
Right, but if you don't know Statesman is a secret organization,
I mean, if they didn't know Kingsman was a secret organization.
I feel like theirs is a bit more obvious, though.
Because
Yeah.
they put the Kingsman logo in the whiskey bottle, and the umbrella had the big Statesman logo on it that you could press.
Right.
The Kingsman logo, I think it would have been fine if it was just bigger.
Yeah, that's
Or
my
on
thing.
the outside.
Yeah, like the Statesman, the Kingsman umbrella with the Statesman logo has a giant plaque on the handle that you have to look at, essentially. The Kingsman logo on the Statesman bottle is really tiny and on the inside.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm fine with it being on the inside if it was like the majority of the inside of the label.
Yeah, if it
so
was
like,
more noticeable.
yeah, the second you flip the bottle over, you're like, oh, I see. This
Yeah.
is a clue.
Merlin stared at it for like a good 20 seconds before he saw the logo.
It wasn't even Merlin.
Well, no, like Eggsy saw it and he
Oh,
showed it,
okay.
and then Merlin looked at it and he looked at it and he's like, oh, I see it now.
In fairness, probably
He
18
was also-
of those seconds were probably focusing his eyes.
He is also very drunk,
See,
which is
but
another issue.
We needed that scene of them just drinking so much until Merlin got emotional.
Yeah, we did. That was a really good cut from only then, after our mission's complete, you may shed a single tear in private. Several drinks later, Merlin's just openly sobbing. That's real good. It's a very well-made movie.
I mean, you guys do bring up a good point, though, that everyone should know about the Doomsday. They don't necessarily need to know what the Doomsday is, but everyone should know, hey, there's the Doomsday Protocol.
Yeah, also that.
And it might be explained away by the fact it's like, oh, well, he's still a new agent, but I don't know how much time has been between the two movies.
It's been a pretty good amount of time because he's like essentially living with the princess's girlfriend, and like all his friends know he's fully moved in to Galahad's old house. Like
Yeah.
there's been some time.
Like, the point being, there's been enough time that he should have, at the very least, been briefed on the Doomsday Protocol.
I think they said it was like a year between.
Yeah, that's definitely enough time to be like, hey, you're a full agent. Here's the list of things that we have protocols for, and here's the Doomsday one.
I feel like this could definitely be explained by like, oh, the field agent doesn't actually know what they're doing, and the staff behind it are really the ones that know everything.
I mean, true, but also it seemed like Merlin was the only member who knew about it who was staff. Like he said specifically, the reason his house wasn't like torpedoed was because he was listed as staff and not agent. So that means he's the only person listed as staff because no one else showed up.
I mean, that or they were all at the Kingsman place.
Or that, I suppose.
We see more like staff in the first one that are just like maintaining things. It's just that I think that they were probably in the building when it imploded.
And also, staff probably includes, like, you know, the guy working the tailor shop
Right.
that they walk into and say, hey, like, I need room number 3, that guy's probably staff.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that guy doesn't know the Doomsday Protocol. Merlin, I think, is the only one who does.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I feel like the agents are the ones that need to know, and Merlin, just because he's the information staff guy.
Well, yeah, he obviously needs to know. But
He
yeah,
needs
no,
to know.
the agents definitely should know some things.
Yeah, exactly. Otherwise, you're relying way too much on Merlin.
Yeah.
Speaking of differences between field agents and staff, one of the things about this movie that I think is a really good detail is that all of the agents have names that have something in common. So, like, Arthur, Galahad, and Lancelot are all Knights of the Round Table, but Merlin was not.
True.
And that also holds with the Statesman, where all of the agents have names based on alcoholic drinks, like champagne and whiskey, but the staff, her name was ginger ale.
I did notice that. I did appreciate that.
Which is like, you're a drink, but you're not alcohol.
Champagne, or Champ as he likes to be called, the head of the Statesmen, knew a lot of Kingsman history. I feel like maybe we should have gone to him about the 2 British people that rolled up and said they were secret agents.
Yeah.
Yeah, to be fair though, Tequila didn't know that Kingsman was a secret agent thing. And so like he was like, alright, well you guys are just random British guys who showed up and like broke into our facility. I understand where, like, I understand your point. He should have definitely gone to the guy who knew, but also he didn't know that Champagne knew anything about Kingsman because he didn't know Kingsman was a thing.
You'd think, though, he'd ask. Like, 2 people stroll up and have the technology to break into your highly secure facility, and then claim that they are also in a secret, intelligence agency. You would maybe, just maybe, might want to run that up your own flagpole.
Well, he did have Ginger look into it, and she found their Doomsday Protocol,
Yeah.
which confirmed their story.
But you may want to do that before you threaten to light their crotches on fire.
He did jump the gun there, yeah.
Hey, this is a bit of a hard shift, but do you guys think that every country that Britain colonized has their own specific agency?
I really hope so.
I think that would be fun.
Well,
I need them all to be themed also.
now, they mentioned in this movie that the founder of Statesman, their tailor, was the founder of Kingsman. Like, I'm assuming that that's like their actual relationship between them.
Yeah, well, I think he said the trailer was a Kingsman, but it might be the founder. I'm not sure.
I think he said the Kingsman, but I don't know.
Well, because Kingsman's supposed to be like really old, isn't it?
I mean, who knows how old Statesman is?
At least as old as America is not an old country.
No, but I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be limited to how old America is.
This will all get answered in the 3rd movie anyways.
That's true.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, that's good.
But to answer your question, Rachel, about the other countries, that would make an excellent sequel movie.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Is the first movie you've got the Kings, second movie you've got the Kingsman and the Statesman. The third movie you have the world.
I was really hoping you came up with another thing for another country.
I'm
Just off
not
the
that
top of your head.
creative.
They do have that joke from the first movie that no one knows what like China's Secret Service is called. I'm not sure what that name would be either, but I'm just saying we have a setup. We could pay it off.
Yeah, would be for the world. All of the secret intelligence agencies of all the different countries have to get together to stop one world-breaking event.
I don't know why, but this really just sounds like a Codename Kids Next Door plot.
It really does.
Like how it's like, oh, we're Sector V, and it's like, oh yeah, well we're Sector like H or whatever. We gotta go to the moon base.
I do, like, kind of circling back to it, when you say, like, oh, everyone's gonna come together for, like, one big world-breaking event, like, these were both, like, the first one and this one were global catastrophes, and you have to wonder a little bit, like, where everyone else is on this.
Exactly.
And I did love that they did try and kind of, like, explain that away a little bit in the flashback to like how Harry survived, where they had Ginger being like, oh, I'm picking up the this weird frequency because he was in Kentucky during the Freebird fight sequence in the first one, and so that's definitely statesman jurisdiction, and they do eventually roll up, and so it's this beautiful way to be like, this is how they got there so quickly, this is how they saved him, this is why they weren't involved in any of the other content.
Yeah, no, it works out very well. I also really like the small detail of when she was hearing the frequency, it was the same frequency from the first movie. It's a very easy thing to put in because I already had the file, but it's a nice touch either way.
I have an IMDb fact, and whoever takes this can cut this out if they want to, but it is relating to that scene.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Now, the actor that played Eggsy refused to be the actual person that did that scene, so they got the actress's husband to come in and do it instead.
Okay, that's cool, but also it begs another question of was that not, did they really do that? Was that...
Yeah, that was her husband's hand.
I mean,
I didn't think I thought the scene was, I thought we just went to CG for that. I didn't realize. Oh.
Now, another thing.
They just mocapped it and then CG'd over it.
It defeats the...
Another thing with that scene is there is a continuity error where Eggsy puts the, for lack of a better term, finger condom on his pointer finger.
Hate that.
I'm sure
Thank you.
there
Continue.
are in fact several better terms. Finger glove? Finger glove would have worked.
Regardless.
Applicator.
He uses the wrong finger, yes.
Yes, he uses the incorrect finger.
You don't have to one up everything in a movie, in a sequel, you know?
You know, some things you can leave out.
I think it was good.
Alright, well, that is an opinion.
All right, that's Brandon's hot take.
So,
There had to be they're so specifically designed to be absorbed through like soft tissue. Like, I really feel like they could have just figured out another way to apply this blood tracker thing.
yeah, you know, like maybe a small needle that, like, you know, you're just like, oh, look at this mosquito touch, and you just stab a little bit, and
Something.
injected, done.
Yeah, there's a million better ways to get a tracker into somebody's bloodstream.
What if you need to track the blood of a dude? Do you just stick your finger in his mouth at some point and hope he doesn't notice your weird finger glove?
That does pose the theory of, you know, statesmen, do you have just like a separate tracker for men? Because that's a whole new set of problems.
Yeah.
It could have just been like a roofie. Like, you just put it in their drink and it's done.
Yeah, I mean, it's creepy, but...
This
You know,
was
I'm not sure
this
if
was
it's less creepy.
creepier.
Yeah, no, yeah, this is definitely
all of
creepier.
this is solved by just having like a small needle with the thing in it that you shoot out of your watch, like every other projectile in the entire franchise.
Yeah, as long as you have someone with two eyes shoot it, you're good.
I think that's the best thing we're going to get to a segue from this.
I think they did a really good job with having Harry like progressively get better at like dealing with his whole, you know, one eye deal.
Yeah, because it's a very nice scene where they reintroduce manners maketh man. We have to have a rule of three in here, and then he does the opening mug throw and just completely whiffs it. It's good comedy because he's fresh from like being out of the fight for a long time, and he's out of practice. He only has one eye. He's not used to fighting, you know, with a blind side. And so it's a good scene that establishes, hey, he's not just back in top peak like condition because he has memories back all of a sudden. And then we get to see Whiskey. We get to see his moves. It's like, all right, cool. We have, you know, an equivalent and a laser lasso.
I also love that the bar in that scene is set up exactly like the pub in England.
Yeah,
it's the exact same setup.
And they were even sitting in the same spot.
Yeah. I will say I was confused about whether or not the bar patrons were like agents. Because one, we only see, if they're not, we only see like 4 statesman agents in this entire movie. And I have to imagine their organization's bigger than that.
Well, we do see the holograms
Yeah,
when
there
egg
are
sequence
more of
on.
them.
Yeah,
Later.
but they're all just there's more important things going on. And then he calls that one guy
Moonshine.
Yeah, he calls that one guy Moonshine, which fits the naming convention. So like, was that guy also an agent and he was just a jerk? What's going on?
And if not,
He definitely stabbed one of those dudes.
yeah. I mean, if not, also, what are these people do? They had no beef with these people. They just roll up and go, get out of our bar and start fighting.
Yeah, I liked you with the eye patch, but now that your eye patch is glasses, fuck you.
Like, what was their problem? There was no initiation to that conflict, or there was nothing to spark that conflict in any way other than this guy just rolling up and being an asshole.
I feel like the motivation is supposed to be like, oh, these posh city slickers from England came over to our bar and our...
So you're gonna fight to the death?
It's Kentucky.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
get
you
the
know-
vibe that it's like a this is a locals bar. This is a small town, no outsiders. So like you get these random 3 British dudes in high-end suits just kind of roll up and sit down and have their reunion, and you're just gonna throw hands.
We don't take too kindly to your kind here.
Wow.
I do remember what I wanted to say earlier, and it was that I imagine the same reason why Statesman didn't get like super involved with the first movie stuff is that like every single secret organization is constantly dealing with world-ending threats, and they just don't call anyone about it because they can handle it on their own. Like in like Rick Riordan's like various demigod series, there's always something that's about to end the world, and they don't tell any other group of people.
I see today we're not talking about Star Wars. We're gonna talk about the Percy Jackson books.
Look, we were gonna get to Star Wars eventually. We would have gotten there.
I always assumed that, at least in the Percy Jackson books, part of it was that it's their specific pantheons that they're dealing with the issue on.
Right, but like later on we find out that some of them do know about the other pantheons, and they're just like, yeah, no, it's not my deal.
Not my pig, not my farm.
Not my
Exactly.
jurisdiction.
Like part of real Norse mythology is that Ragnarok is always on the horizon. It's this coming thing that will be the end of all people and all the gods, and like it's the end of the world, and they know what's coming, and they're just trying to, you know, push it back every chance they get. That's all they're doing. They're just trying to buy time. And I feel like if I was someone from one of the other pantheons, I'd be real concerned about that. Like, hey, hold on. Why is the world ending because you guys messed up? But anyway, that's what I assume is going on with the Kingsman and the Statesman and whatever the other organizations are. It's that they're all having issues, and like the first movie got out of hand where he started kidnapping like people from all over the world, but otherwise they just solve their own issues and don't tell anyone about it.
Yeah. And then the sequel movie is when all of them are all working on the same one and no one's told each other.
Who are they fighting?
We don't know.
Loki.
I was gonna say aliens, but you know, that's the same thing.
Yeah, the Chitauri show up in New York. God, I really would love for this universe to have nothing different except S.H.I.E.L.D. also exists. Nick Fury is just there like, hey, can I interest you in S.H.I.E.L.D.? And like, no, sorry, I'm already in a secret organization. That's...
Now, hang on a second. Nick Fury, who was in the first movie.
Exactly. They'd never suspect it.
He's actually still alive.
It's his twin brother. He shows up. He's like, "Yeah, no, I don't know what he was going on about. Don't." He had that like lisp. It's very embarrassing.
So, are we gonna talk about how stressful it is in this year of 2021 to watch literally any movie that features a global health crisis.
I was gonna bring that up. It's real concerning, and like, listen, I get not everyone saw this. Most people could not have seen this coming, but also, the president of the United States was ready to let like millions of people die of a very preventable disease. See, the weird thing is that he actually got consequences, and that's the unbelievable part.
For me, it really hit with the like field hospitals inside stadiums.
Yeah, that was also.
Oh yeah.
Just
Not
stacking
great.
people up in cages.
It also, for a second, looked like it was going to transition to like a zombie movie or something.
It really
Like
did.
all of the people just randomly swaying in cages.
Yeah, they're all just dancing like it's one giant party.
I also love the like little, I don't know if you can call it a reference to Magic Mike when Channing Tatum is just dancing because he's got this disease.
I'll call that a reference.
I'll allow it.
That was entirely, like, the dancing was entirely improvised by Channing Tatum.
I mean, it wasn't bad. I would have absolutely seen his character dance like that. So
Wait, was the dancing portion of the drug inspired by him, or just
No,
that scene?
they told him to dance and he came up with whatever
Okay.
moves he wanted to.
Okay, that would have been way funnier if they decided to change the entire plot.
we have to change so many portions of the movie because Channing wanted to dance. Okay.
They add like a whole extra step to the disease progression, to include dancing.
I also really like that at the end of the movie, Ginger tries to like give this moral lesson to his character, Tequila, about like maybe just stick to alcohol from now on. It's like, hold on, we just spent a large portion of this movie saying that you shouldn't vilify people for like taking drugs. You can't also like you can't also just like talk to this man about it like this. It doesn't work.
I honestly really loved that, like, the president's, I'm gonna assume she's like chief of staff or something, like ended up being affected by it, and she had that whole like speech moment where she's like, this affects people, like all kinds of people from all kinds of backgrounds, and you're not doing anything about it. That was a nice moment for me, because it does definitely like emphasize like this isn't just like people on the streets. Like, I can't remember the exact words that like the president used earlier in the movie, but it was
Yeah, he was like, it's just a bunch of drug addict junkies. We can let them die. It's like, no, this affects everyone on all levels. You can't just make that judgment call. And I mean, also, it was, when she said that, it was very clear. It's like, okay, so either this woman has taken drugs or is like her daughter or her son or something. And it was obvious, but at the same time, she wasn't wrong. Even if she wasn't one of the people who was affected by it, she made a very good point.
My question is, what about countries where, like, because Miss Poppy said that she had like a full monopoly, like a full global monopoly. There are countries that have many of these drugs legalized and regulated. Are they just
I get the feeling that she only did that, like, well, it's not like she only did it in America, because it did affect people outside of America, which is wild that she risked all those other people's lives on the president's decision. But also, like, I feel like she had enough control over it that she could be like, okay, well, weed is legal here, so we're not going to poison their weed. Just places where it is illegal. Because she didn't seem like hell-bent on killing all of the people who gave her business. She wanted her business to be legitimate and recognized. So I think there's no proof that she did, like, specify to that degree, but I think it's within the realm possibility that she did.
It would be in her best interest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is still wild that she did poison people all over the globe and leave it up to America to decide.
Yeah, the American president. There was even a line where she's like, well, the UN is useless, so American president, you speak for the world.
Truly a terrible decision.
Yeah, it wasn't the best moment.
So we haven't talked about Star Wars yet, but there is a very clear way for us to do this if we want to.
Oh,
Go right ahead.
I mean, Pedro Pascal.
Yeah.
What can't that man do?
Well, I haven't seen Wonder Woman, so like the new Wonder Woman, so I'm not sure if he did well in that.
I forgot that movie existed.
He's in the life is good, but it could be better meme. That's it. And he did that well, as far as it's a good meme.
He memes well.
He memes well, but no, he did very good in this movie.
I do think the electrified lasso was a little much.
I think it fit perfectly
It's
with the series.
Super over the top and American.
And completely unrealistic.
I think the ability for it to be able to just slice through a person clean in half is much. I think having a taser lasso is a good level.
Yeah, that was a lasso lightsaber.
Yeah, but also remember what the
That one super brave guard.
no, I'm talking from the first movie. The woman with the,
Gazelle.
The blade prosthetics.
The prosthetic sword.
that could cleanly slice through anything.
It's amazing that she could walk on those without slicing through the floor.
Who do you think would have won in a fight?
Oh, I don't know.
The knife legs or the
Laser lasso.
the laser lasso that cut a person clean in half on contact?
I feel like the laser lasso is it's more of a longer range weapon.
Yeah,
It's got
but
the
she
advantage.
can also jump really far and fast too.
Yeah, she's really fast. We saw Harry jump through the lasso, so I feel like she could have done it too.
She absolutely could have done that. And then on top of that, it doesn't electrify all the way to the handle. So as long as she got close enough, she just slice it in two and then it's done.
Well, it looks like the part that's electrified is wherever the loop connects, and so as long as he makes it a really big loop, he can make most of it electrified.
Yeah, but then it's also not gonna catch her at all.
Oh, you could just spin it.
I mean, I guess that's fair too, but
I get it. Lassos do have a wide range of usability.
I mean, we did see that the non-electrified part of the lasso is at least shoot throughable.
yeah.
True.
I mean, it definitely would be cut by those blades.
But then he pulls out his backup lasso.
Then she just uses her alternate foot. She's got two legs. He's got two lassos.
He also has several revolvers.
I don't think that was the question. I think it was
The question was who would win in a fight.
okay. Unfair. All right. In that case, Whiskey would probably win. But
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
if it just came down to blade
It's
prosthetics
just her main
versus
weapon.
lassos, I think blade prosthetics win.
I want to talk about when he shot that person by spinning the revolver around his finger, because that was
real good.
insane.
He shot at least 4 people doing that.
It was real good. He did
was
some
amazing.
cool gun tricks that were completely unnecessary, but just real good flavor.
Yeah.
It was just, we need to show you why Whiskey is cool. We need to show you that Pedro Pascal can do these cool gun tricks now.
Listen, he's a space cowboy. He's a regular cowboy. He's the ultimate cowboy.
I think one of my favorite parts with the lasso was when he lassoed the gun. Or not the gun, the knife.
The knife.
And then swung it around and stabbed the guy with it.
Yeah, that was great. I don't think that's how knives work, but still.
It's absolutely not how knives work.
Pretty sure that's not how lassos work either.
We've passed that one. We're too far gone past how lassos work. I really like that one guard who he saw him do all this crazy stuff. The guard's like, "All right, you're out of ammo. I'm out of gun." The guard pulls out a knife. He pulls out his electric lasso, and the guard's like, "No, I got this." he didn't got it.
Also, what did Harry use to shoot those 3 grenades that the robot shot?
Something in his umbrella. That umbrella is my favorite thing. Because
really
it
good.
does everything.
Like it grabs onto the first one, swings around, grabs the second one, and then just becomes like a bolo and grabs the third one and then just continues backwards.
Yeah, it had crazy momentum.
Like, how much weight was in this thing to begin with? Because there were 3 grenades heading at high velocity towards you, and you fire one projectile that grabs all of them and then launches them back to their starting point.
I think we've established that the umbrella can just do anything.
Yeah.
Couldn't hold off that dog for very long.
Yeah, rip Umbrella. He just tossed that thing aside.
Yeah, look, the dog has drill bit teeth.
Also, it was really convenient that the one was just charging.
That was very convenient. That one dog was only at 85% for some... Like, why was... She only deploys them together. Why was that one lower on power?
The robot dogs were too powerful together. We had to stagger them.
Can we talk real quick about the useless death of Merlin?
Yeah,
I wouldn't
That
call it
accomplished
useless.
nothing.
He accomplished
No,
a
he
lot.
got the guards
Okay,
away from the gate.
There were so many other ways they could have gotten rid of the guards. They got rid of like 80 times that number of guards like 5 minutes later.
Yeah, but that was after they were inside.
It just
Listen, I'm not happy about it either.
it just felt so demeaning to that character. Like, he was one of my favorite characters in the entire franchise.
Oh yeah.
And to like I understand you wanted to have him like go out with a noble sacrifice and stuff.
With a bang?
With a noble sacrifice and stuff.
I'm sorry, I had to. It's in my contract.
But you had the spray that would freeze the lock so that you could transfer it to a new weight. Just go find a weight, a rock of some kind, to
Yeah.
go put on it.
I will say that there was no way they were going to reasonably find a man-sized rock
It
and
does
then
not
move
need
it to
to
that.
be a man-sized rock.
A man
Those-
weight rock.
It does not need to be a man-weighted rock because those triggers are not set to like only go off with the weight of a person. It's like 20-pound trigger. It's enough to a small animal won't set it off, but like a person barely stepping on it would, right? You don't need a huge thing. And also, the trigger, once depressed, is not going to have the same amount of force coming out. So you can just find a lighter object and set it on it. It'll be fine.
I suppose. I mean, I understand why they did. Because, like, hey, we're on a timetable. We don't have time to go searching for, like, another thing to weigh this down. And we're out of the spray that lets us transfer it.
Yeah, but my point is, they had the briefcase. That briefcase was full of fucking ammo and a gun.
The briefcase might have been his only gun.
Yeah,
Okay.
they needed that. That was all he
Hey,
had.
you know who else has guns? All those guards.
How are you going to get it without a gun?
There's 2 other people that also have guns that you can use to kill the guards that have other guns.
Merlin had a big knife.
Yeah, Merlin didn't even have a gun.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. You had one other person with a gun. We can't throw away the gun briefcase.
I mean, you do the same thing. All right, now tie a string or anything to the rock, lure the guards over, pull the rock away. Boom.
How are you going to lure the guards to a rock?
I don't know, maybe singing country roads.
Is the rock going to sing, Josh?
You stand behind the
Are you a
rock,
And then you
ventriloquist?
still
Are you throwing your
explode.
voice?
or you sing it there and then you run away and pull it as you're running away.
There's no way
That
that,
would-
they would still be there. If you have time to get out of that blast radius, so do they.
Yeah, they're going to be chasing you though, so they'll
And they're
chase
going
you
to
through
chase
it.
you to the rock and then over to where you're going.
No, I would say you start behind the rock, and they have to run past the rock to get to you.
Why do you think they just leave their post like that?
Because they did that in the movie.
Yeah, but they didn't like run off into the jungle like, hey, there's a guy right at the edge of what we're guarding. We're gonna go see what he's doing. It's not, hey, there's a guy running into the jungle, into our active minefield that we know is over there. I'm not saying they're smart, by the way.
I do also want to point out that although they didn't know it at the time, those mines were able to be just deactivated by Poppy. Like, she mentions that earlier in the film.
And they did say that they were like, hey, were you expecting another lawyer?
Also, they specifically brought a minesweeper for this exact purpose.
And they didn't sweep directly in front of where Eggsy was standing.
I'm just saying, there were so many ways that they could have gone about doing this better, and Merlin could have lived, and it just felt like a huge waste for this character to die. He could have still had his whole singing Country Roads moment. They could have done that. They could have had all of that and let him live. But they killed him, and it upsets me.
There's nothing to prove that he died from that explosion.
It's true, we didn't see a body, you know?
Guys,
Hell-
we need a whole lot of Elpagel over here.
Hell, I mean, we saw Harry's body, and he still lived.
Exactly.
Speaking of Harry, did anyone else think that we were gonna get an end scene where Harry was Arthur now?
Yeah.
Because, like, they spent a lot of time emphasizing that there are two Galahads and it's incredibly confusing. But there was not a payoff for that other than trying to invite one of them to be Whiskey.
Yeah.
You're right, you know? It's pretty easy to just go, hey, you're Arthur now.
And
We're
you can't-
starting over.
He can't shoot so good with one eye.
So, it actually makes a lot of sense that as, like, the most senior field agent, he would just be Arthur, especially since most of the seats have just been vacated.
And also, like, the Arthur that we had in this one, like, you never see this man before.
Yeah.
How'd they pick this guy?
That was just some dude.
I kind of like the idea. I was like, oh, man, we only have two Galahads now. Well, now we have to restart the Kingsman. Everyone's Galahad.
That sounds worse. That sounds so much worse.
It's the Josh fight, but it's all Galahads, and only one Galahad gets to stay Galahad.
But you have to wait a year? And until then, everyone's Galahad.
It just sounds really confusing.
One of the other IMDb facts that's more towards the end of the movie is the quote that Harry gives at the end, where he says, a former Kingsman agent once said this. That's just a quote from Winston Churchill.
Oh, good.
What was his quote?
Let me find it real quick.
At one point, when we were talking about the one scene, and we're all like, there are better ways to put it. I was like sitting here like, man, I can think of like 8 worse things that I could say on this podcast.
Yeah.
Gotta get that E rating.
Well, we're not E-rating.
E isn't explicit, which all of our episodes have been so far.
Actually, you know, yes.
Did you think that we meant E for everyone when I said I was gonna list off some vulgar?
Yes.
So the quote by Winston Churchill is, "This is not the end. It is not even the beginning of the end, but it is perhaps the end of the beginning."
Oh.
Ah, see, the problem is I had stopped listening at that point, which is why I didn't remember the quote.
But yes, so they just heavily imply that Winston Churchill was part of the Kingsman organization.
Yeah, he was a Kingsman. He was a friend of the Doctor. Winston Churchill is just doing all the historical shit.
Not to disparage Winston Churchill, but he ain't doing sick kicks and things.
He ain't no Elton John.
Maybe not anymore. He
Yeah.
probably could have been Arthur by that point.
Remember that time he built a Dalek? That was cool.
It does make a lot of sense for him to be Arthur, actually.
Yeah.
All right, so any final thoughts on the movie?
Love the Kingsman films. They're very honest about what they are and the action that they produce.
You know what? I've had a really good time watching both of these movies. They're crazy, they're wacky, they know what they are, and they love to just roll with their own comedy. And I love them.
Yeah, it's for these exact reasons that I don't understand why you don't want to watch the Fast and Furious franchise. It's all of those things.
See, but for Fast and Furious, all of those things are just bad.
They're not, though.
They're not bad. They're family.
Okay, I'm done. Cut it.
This has been HQ Movie Review. I'm Rachel.
I'm Josh.
I'm Jack.
And I'm Brandon.
Good night, everybody.
Save lives. Legalize.